Hello, I'm Amelia Ruby, and this is my tiny tarot practice. Today's card is the Ace of Wands. Wands in the tarot are the suit of fire, and the Ace of Wands is the beginning of that suit. I love how Jessica Crispin of the Creative Tarot describes aces as seeds. A seed is both what comes before and at the beginning, and that which contains the entirety of the journey. We can imagine a plant seed that is dormant until it's put into the right conditions, and it contains everything necessary to create a beautiful plant in its most nascent form. Aces in tarot are like that too, and pulling an ace is pulling an invitation. Encountering an ace is encountering an invitation of potentiality, an invitation to become anything and everything. I think the Ace of Wands is like this, especially so because wands as the suit of fire are the suit of energy. They are the suit of force. As Jessica Dorr puts it in Tarot for Change, wands unite the ethereal and the corporeal. They bring the body to what is beyond the body. They are that the energetics of ourselves, our lives, of our world. And the aces are the beginning of all of that and the whole journey of all of that. As Rachel Pollack puts it in 78 Degrees of Wisdom, the aces are bursts of elemental energy. The Ace of Wands is a burst of the element of fire. I think that this creative force and passion that we see in the aces, it reminds me of when I studied aesthetics, I learned that the word force in German is Kraft. And of course, that then calls to me an idea of craft, of crafting, of crafts, of creation, of the way of how something realizes itself. There's a beautiful book that I cited in my dissertation called Force by a philosopher named Christoph Menke. And he talks about how force is how something realizes itself, and how in the history of philosophy, aesthetics is the study of self-realization or realization through force, and how what's at stake there is freedom. In aesthetics, in this way, we see how we can, to some degree, become our freest selves through our intuitive and sensuous and emotional experiences. We see the study of our own natures as well as our second nature, how our senses are both raw and crafted. And I think the Ace of Wands is an invitation to encounter our raw creative force, the eros, the erotic, as Audre Lorde would put it, that is everything, that is the beginning of it all in our world and our lives. To encounter that in its most raw form and then to craft it. The Ace of Wands is both, as Jessica Crispin puts it, a holy vision and the realization of that vision, the force that brings it to life. In the True Heart Intuitive Tarot by Rachel True, the Ace of Wands features a beautiful phoenix, a bird of fire, the bird of renewal, the bird of life. And in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the Ace of Wands is held by a hand that emerges from a cloud, like it's from the heavens. It's a reminder that, this energy is both of us and beyond us. I love how Jessica Dorr puts it in her book Tarot for Change, where she talks about how many interpretations associate the wands with action, but she says, I believe they represent the stuff that precedes action. The wands contain the energy that drives, motivates, and stimulates us. She says, I see the wands as having to do with our desires as well as our intuitive appraisals, that initial spark of response within us before we have time to think about what something means, and in doing so repress our feelings or engage in some act of avoidance. She's a therapist or has trained as a therapist, if you can't tell. But that takes me back to aesthetics that I mentioned before. I wrote a dissertation on aesthetics. I've studied this for a long time. And one way of thinking about aesthetics and philosophy is it's the study of what comes before logic. It's the study of our drives, of our intuitive instincts, but also the study of how, again, those can be crafted. We can work on them. Yes, there's desire that comes just by fact of us being human, but we can also shape our desires. Society can shape them too. We see that in the power of heteronormativity and the compulsory nature, compulsory heterosexuality that our society drives us. If we want to talk about sexual desire, that is a shaping of our desire by society, but we can reclaim and shape our own desire as well. The Ace of Wands is an invitation to all of these things. Wands, again, are fire. Aces are seeds. It's the seed of fire, the spark and the spark, the flame, and the ember that lives beyond the flame. If you've pulled this card in a reading, if you've pressed play on this episode as a way of reading this card for yourself today, I invite you to sit with your desire. I invite you to go read Audre Lorde's uses of the erotic. The erotic is power, to consider the role it can play in your life, to think of desire as both the sexual and beyond, as the erotic and beyond, I should say, to imagine desire as creativity, to reimagine your relationship with force, not as force over or power over others, but the life force that fills and fulfills us. Those are all invitations that I think come from the Ace of Wands. Thank you for joining me for my tiny tarot practice today. If you'd like to read any of the books that I've read from and shared with you and mentioned in this episode, you can head to the show notes where you'll find my bookshop link and purchase them there. If you do so, I will receive a small affiliate payment. And that helps me keep this podcast going card by card through the entire tarot. Again, I'm Amelia Ruby. Thank you so much for joining me in my tarot practice. Have a beautiful, fiery day.